Okay. This is like going to India and thinking it's racist because there are so many Indians in Bollywood. Nobody's stopping you making your own story with your own character, but it's got to be good. You can't just fill it full of communist weird messaging and blame me for it failing. The gag is no one is blaming you for it failing. I was saying there is a prevalency of whiteness in media. There needs to be accountability for us making good stories, yes, but there also has to be an understanding of the foundations of the craft we are in. And funny enough, Bollywood has a long history of colorism and white supremacy despite being owned and created by Indian people. So does a lot of other forms of art made by POC. I wonder why. You are more privileged than I have ever been. You are creating racism by banging on about whiteness, etc. Then here's the response. You are missing his point because you were too quick to push back. America is diverse. America isn't white, so naturally you would expect it to be reflective of its diversity. The Bollywood comparison even fails to see the point, and his counter was valid. Even in Bollywood, it is founded on whiteness. The video questions why this is and begs the viewer to consider a world where art in the modern world, and certainly America, is truly reflective of its diverse makeup. It is realizations he is not being whiny about it. And then this person followed up. Hopefully, after this realization, he is not limited by it. Race is not real. It never was. It is a political creation for 400 years ago. The more people know that, the better. I hope that Alico doesn't strive to be a better artist on behalf of blackness because that would be limiting. In that sense, I agree with the rest of you. Right? Okay. I'm here to explain something. I decided to make another video. As you saw, that was one of the trolls that decided to get in my comments and start whining and pouting, because of the woke mob. Um, I've realized something about America. I've realized something in the past several years, right? I'll say the past at least 5 years. There has been a rise in discussions about whiteness, right? Whiteness is good, whiteness is bad. The liberals talk about how they hate straight white men, which is so problematic because you can't just blame everything on straight white men. The conservatives are like, we need to uplift certain values. And of course, at the forefront of that is whiteness, the same kind of white values or white imagery they had for like the American dream back in the 50s and 60s. That kind of archetype that they use. It's a whole thing. And so we see a prevalency of whiteness, right? And, a lot of white people standing up. But you go and you look out and you go into the real world, and, I don't see a mass genocide of whiteness. I don't see a whole bunch of white people getting taken out. I don't see a whole bunch of white people having their homes be demolished. I don't see white people having, their lives be taken away. I don't see them being dehumanized. I don't see little white kids being viewed in a zoo. I don't see any of these things happening. Now, yes, it's wrong to sit there and get online and say that you hate white people. That is wrong, and that is racist towards white people. But I find it so funny how just words is enough to cause so much anger and frustration, because I often feel that white people are still infantilized. It's the same way that a white person can go around and they could sit there and they could shoot up a school. And yes, there would be a lot of other white people that would say, how dare you, shameful, awful, you know, off with your head. They would not support that. But there's also moments where you will see people sit there and they become complacent when talking about certain stuff when white people are violent. All of a sudden, when, an individual is violent, and they just happen to be white, that is not supposed to be reflective of all white people as a race, right? For some reason, when you are white, you get to come in and out of being so many different types of things. You get to be poor, you get to be rich, you get to be good, you get to be bad, you get to be perverse, you get to be morally correct. You get to be so many different things. You have the autonomy to be whatever you are, and that not be a reflection upon your entire race. But the problem is that more and more people are giving white people the treatment that I'll say black Americans have gotten, and also other people of color within America. Because now, if a white person does something bad, if a white person is saying something wrong, if a white person does this, if it's an individual, more and more people are questioning the morality and the ethics of whiteness itself, of white community itself. And a lot of white people cannot handle that because they are so used to being on the outside looking in. They are so used to evaluating it differently, not having to be the one to be judged and generalized in such a manner that when it has happened so much so throughout the years, it feels like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Like the sky is falling. But nothing's happening. I mean, they still have their privilege, and no, privilege does not mean you're superhuman. Privilege does not mean that you're exempt from trauma in the world. It just means that you have the ability to be the foundation or the representation of success and beauty and all these different things that people are seemingly having to navigate in some form of way or some form of fashion. But, that does not mean that you're exempt from trauma. That's not what privilege is. For some reason, that is seen on the interwebs, but that's just not what that is. But with that being said, I find it funny when I was critiquing or acknowledging the origins of art, being somebody who has been in privileged enough to be in art spaces, has been in and out of several different types of art communities. Yes, it is very white. And the foundations of how a lot of representation is in the arts is whiteness. Any other type of community probably was aided by a white person, right? Because white people had the autonomy, white people had the upper hand. Any other community, any other person that was visibly somebody from a different culture, yes, we have documentation of their work, but at the forefront, it's naked white people, the oil painting of them dancing and frolicking in the fields, right? And then, we have the other people, right? That's kind of just the foundations of visual art. And so when you're critiquing white supremacy, I'm not saying that I hate white people. I'm not saying that white people should go to hell. I'm not sitting there asking for a genocide of white people. I'm just acknowledging something that has been present within society for so long. And when you say that, suddenly white people start to panic because they can't fathom they can't handle the reality of what that is, right? Suddenly the blessing has become a curse. Suddenly the privilege has become a burden. And so now there's this guiltiness or this anger because how dare you, you're blaming me. And it's like, I'm not blaming you, friend. I'm not blaming you. I'm just letting you know the truth. I'm not blaming you. You're right. I do need to pull my shit together. I do need to have autonomy. I do need to have responsibility for the different things that I do. You're right. But I'm not sitting here blaming all white people and holding them at gunpoint and say, you better give me my money. No. I'm just saying that there are certain things within our society that make whiteness the default. And so now when we're switching it up, now when things are changing, now when you have more and more people having the autonomy to be able to get on the internet that reaches so many people around the world, that's basically 24/7, sitting there voicing some of the various different things that black people and other people of color have had said to them by white supremacists and other white people throughout generations, yeah, they're not taking it well, some of them. But hey, that's just how I feel about it. If you feel some type of way about it, okay. Good night.